So I'd like to tell you a story today about a gentleman named Ryan Leak. Ryan Leak is an author, a videographer, a public speaker. And when I first came across Ryan, it was as the result of a 15-minute video that he created that discussed chasing failure. Chasing failure. Most of us, when we go through our lives, whether it be at work or our personal relationships, we're chasing wins. We're chasing success. What was intriguing to me about Ryan's story, not only because it's basketball related, which we'll get into, is that he was chasing failure to be able to go and see how good he could be. Now let's get into Ryan here. Who is this Ryan Leak? Ryan Leak is a Division III, or was a Division III basketball player. For those that don't know, in college athletics, there's Division I, those ones that you know about, the Dukes, the North Carolinas, the Kentuckys. There's Division II, and then Division III. Division III is non-scholarship. I played Division III, those that really want to go and still play their sport, but stay connected to the core reason why they're there, which is academics and becoming a better individual. Ryan was an All-American. So when he became All-American, he was one of the top 15 players in the country in Division III basketball. And after Ryan graduated, he continued playing basketball, and he continued getting better. And he was about 27 or 28 years old when he started wondering if he was good enough to play in the NBA. He wasn't sure. He wanted to find out the final breaking point where failure happened for him. He had a feeling that chasing success meant that you would set the bar a little bit lower than it could be or should be, so you could feel good about getting to that point. Chasing success, the wins, so you lower the goal to be able to get the victory, the success. And that if he was to chase failure, he would be constantly striving for the breaking points so he could look at them, understand them, and make adjustments to strengthen the bridge or fill the gap, whatever needed to be done to be able to go and progress from that and find the next failure point. So Ryan went about two different things. First of all, he dedicated himself to a training regimen to be able to go and get him into peak condition, peak skill set. He was going to constantly try new things to find out how he could become the best player that he could. And the second thing that he was going to do is he was going to write every NBA team and ask for a tryout. And the way he did this is that in his letter, he described who he was, a Division III All-American basketball player who believes that there's a possibility that he can make an NBA team. And he was chasing failure. He wanted to go and find out where that failure point truly was. And he went on for months doing this training. And finally, the Phoenix Suns, coached by Jeff Hornacek at the time, said, "Come on in. We'll give you that tryout. We'd love to be able to go and see you." Needless to say, Ryan was really nervous. But he went into the gym that day fully determined to be able to go and do as well as he could and find out if this is where failure happened. He was confident that he kept finding those incremental failure points and fixing them, that he was ready. And as he went through the different drills with Coach Hornacek, he found this out. In a three-point shooting drill, Ryan made 13 out of 20 generally. 65% from a distance of 23 feet and 9 inches. The league average is about 36 during games. Coach Hornacek said, "That's pretty good, Ryan, but most of our guys can hit 16 out of 20. Ryan wasn't quite there. And he was a guard, and this was his strong suit. Different dribbling drills, he found that he was just not quite enough. Speed drills, not quite at the athleticism and speed of the NBA players. In the final drill, after an hour and a half of a workout, Ryan was asked to go up the court and down the court, 94 feet each time, as many times as he could in 3 minutes. He was told that big guys, centers, forwards, generally can do about 26. Guards like him are 30 and above. Ryan thought he had this. And from my kind of training, I recall trying to be able to do 6 down and backs in 30 seconds. So if you multiply that by 6, you're talking about 36. Ryan felt pretty confident he'd be able to go and hit that 30. And as the clock started and the clock was up for everyone to go and see, Ryan started going down and back, down and back. After a minute, he started slowing down. He was getting tired. And he describes the players on the team on the sideline chuckling, smirking a little bit, that here's this guy who thinks he's got all that he can play in the NBA, and he can't get it done. There's another one that went and crashed. But Ryan kept on going. Through the end of a 90-minute workout, as he was going through his 20s and getting to 25, those players were cheering Ryan, pushing him forward, seeing the heart that he had to be able to give everything he had. He didn't get to 30. He got about 25. And at that moment, he saw his final failure point. He knew that he had no more to give. And by finding that failure point, he found the ultimate success in basketball. As the legendary coach John Wooden said, success is the self-satisfaction in the knowledge that you did the very best that you could with the resources that you had. By chasing failure, Ryan Leake found success. At the end of the video, Ryan mentioned that he grew so much more by chasing failure than he ever could have by chasing success. He was striving to see what was possible, knowing he was going to break at certain points, and then he was able to fix it, while others were holding back to be able to make sure that they had success, that they got wins. Now, why do I tell this story? I haven't set it up in terms of how to connect it. But maybe you get it. Maybe you understand why chasing failure actually will make you more successful. I'm sure you've seen in your organizations, whether it be sales organizations that try and set up a quota that's not exactly the best that they can do, but it's safe and they can be successful at it. Or the operations team that feels that they can get out 9 widgets a minute when the possibility for the equipment is 12. But they want to make sure that they're successful because failure is seen as negative. They would look bad. Or how many times someone has wanted to bring up a great idea, but was fearful of the failure and instead brought up something incremental that would take them a little bit higher, but not near as high as they could be. Organizations around the country and around the world, because they're run by humans that are told that failure is bad, is wrong, and can cost you your job, that they hold back, that they chase success. Incremental little bits, 1 degree here and there, as opposed to truly opening up their minds and their hearts to the mission and saying, how can we go and push ourselves to strive for the best that we can be? How can we chase failure? Now, organizations that chase failure and have chased failure, if you recall from my podcast interview with the COO of Target, John Mulligan, he talked about the work that they had to do fixing their operations and logistics structures. And if they hadn't done that when they did, COVID would have killed them. They were chasing breaking points where the system wouldn't work and find out ways to be able to go and strengthen it, fortify it. For when the biggest thing that maybe they've dealt with in their history came and they had to pivot overnight. Digital commerce, delivery pickup, whole bunch of different stuff going on. Masks and how to be able to go and keep the stores as clean as possible to avoid transmitting COVID. John and his team chased failure. And then 3M, another person that I had on the podcast, John Banovitz, the CTO, talked about their 15% culture, which by its very nature looks to chase failure. I have this idea. It seems kind of cool. I'd love to be able to test it out and see where it can go. Are you with me? And if he can get people or she can get people with them, they keep on going. Even if John, as the chief technology officer and head of R&D, doesn't think it's a great plan, they can still chase failure. And they may find failure in that. And John mentioned right at the end of the podcast that an idea that he had about 20 years ago that fell flat was picked up by a couple of other scientists and turned into a viable product. So even that chasing failure that John Banovitz did 20 years ago enabled fruit bearing currently. 2 of the world's best organizations chase failure, provide opportunity and space for employees to make mistakes, to innovate, to create, to experiment with possibilities. Whether it be with new products or whether that be with stressing the system to a point to find out where it does break. So when in actuality something really happens, they're ready. Ryan Leake chased failure. And when he went to the gym and he played after he got done with his tryout, and he's working everybody over on the court, people come up to him and say, dude, you should be playing in the NBA. Why don't you try? And he can, with every core of his fiber inside of him, can say proudly, I have, and I failed. But he was successful because he got to become the best that he could be. Are you going to allow your organizations, your teams, to chase failure to be able to go and find out what's possible in meeting the mission and vision? Interesting thoughts. Send me some feedback on that. This is a provocative type of topic, and I'd love to be able to hear back from you. Hope you're enjoying your week. Have a pleasant rest of the week. We'll see you soon. Cheers.